Shit. Here we go again. So, Shadows of Change is launching in a few short hours, and that means that I'm finally allowed to give you my actual opinions on this latest piece of DLC, Total War Warhammer 3. So is the new content fun, engaging, and most importantly, is it worth £20? No, it's not. So to be fair, first I'm going to go through the content one faction at a time, and then afterwards we'll come to the price. But just know that I mean what I said. This DLC is not worth £20, so if you get one thing from this video, don't buy it at £20. Don't even buy it at the discounted price, especially after the attitude that CA have given us, which I'm going to come to a little bit later. With all that being said, let's dive into this actual review. So let's start with the best lord in the DLC, and that is of course the Changeling. I can deny it no longer, his campaign rocks. The cults are a ton of fun to spread, and they're engaging to build up whilst keeping them hidden. You can use them pretty basically to farm tons of cash, or you can really sow chaos with the army summons. The choice really is up to you, and it really feels on brand with what he should be, a sneaky trickster. Is he overpowered? Absolutely. Do I give a single shit? Absolutely not! The literal only way to lose his campaign is if all of your cults are discovered and destroyed by the settlement owner, and you pretty much have to try and do this. Otherwise, settlements can be razed to the ground and somehow your cult remains. Do I care? Not even slightly. It's a single player game, folks, so making the player feel powerful is just fine by me if the game is fun. And when playing as this guy, the game sure is a lot of fun. This extends over into the schemes. It really spices up the gameplay when I'm not just aimlessly conquering settlement after settlement, and instead I'm choosing specific objectives to create chaos in the truest sense of the word. That might not be for everyone since it kind of takes away some of the sandbox nature of the game, but for me, it was a breath of fresh air and really welcomed me back into Total War with a smile on my face. If I was to critique one thing about the gameplay, it's that I imagine it'll be incredibly repetitive on repeat games, since none of these schemes change in any way from campaign to campaign. But that being said, does anyone actually replay the same campaign over and over again unless they're doing it on a much harder difficulty for a challenge? Over in battle, Siege again lead the DLC with their new units being mostly useful, excellent looking, and more fun to play yet again. Just Changeling on its own with the infinite transformation possibilities is great, and when you're adding giant birds and the tentacle monster, what's not to love? Overall, the Siege part of the DLC really hit the mark for me. It's both fun and extremely overpowered. If you ask me, this is probably the most overpowered faction to be added to the game since Torrox, and we all know how overpowered he was on launch, so expect some nerfs. Moving on to Cathay, and they're honestly super duper middle of the road. I suppose that does fit with them, you know, the harmony thing needs to be in the middle. They're not the shake-up to the Total War formula like the Changeling is, but you know, how could you expect every single lord to be completely different in such a low and reasonably priced DLC? It's still taking settlements, compasses, and trade caravans. The new harmony system is far better, and I wrote that it should be the default, but since I wrote this, I believe it's actually been confirmed that it will be the default, so that's a good change. Having positives on both sides and it being per province makes a lot more sense and is more fun and a lot less frustrating to play. Statecraft is decent if very poorly explained. I couldn't work this out, and Cody Bonds in our creator group chat, he couldn't work it out, and I had to basically coach him on how it works. We play the game for a living and we can't work out how it works. That means it's not explained properly. But anyway, the system is janky as hell, but once you understand how it works, you can get all kinds of cool effects and stuff. However, I really don't love the compass. Taking the different elements is fine as a campaign objective, but nothing too creative, and the rewards for unlocking the new directions are a little bit underwhelming for the work and investments required. I also find it hilarious how the direction for growth in Realms of Chaos is miles away from your starting location, and when you need growth at the start of your game, so by the time you get to it, it's basically completely useless. Over in battle, it's more middle of the road. Yumbo himself is rad, best Cathay Lord hands down in both forms. Man literally executes people, that goes pretty hard. Gonna be overpowered as shit in multiplayer, but I don't really give a single shit about that. Like 95% of players never touch multiplayer. So balance it for those players would be insane, but hey, that's what they do with every other battle patch now, so who knows? Outside of that, it's honestly pretty underwhelming. The Celestial Generals are pointless and do nothing to dethrone how powerful the Dragon Lord Shogun Guns are. The Crowmen are cash. The two lines are basically a reskin with slightly different stats and abilities. That feels like a scam. And the War Drum is actually terrible. Like, do not take them in your armies if you like your units to do anything. Come back to the lines. Yes, they do look cool, have great animations, but they're still a reskin. One of them I'd have been fine with, and a completely different, but even both of them, and then a completely different extra unit, I'd been like, wow, an extra unit in this DLC, maybe it is worth the price. It isn't. It wouldn't have been. But, you know, because they're a reskin, I have to just dock them like 50,000 points because that's just super cheap in a DLC that isn't. So overall, Cathay, super middle of the road, not terrible, but not exactly blow me away like the Changeling did either. But by far, the crowning achievement of game design, and quite possibly CA's biggest quality assurance blunder yet, Mother Ostankya. Oh my god, Mama Stanky is pretty damn stanky. In theory, she sounds alright, and on paper, I like the hex system. It's fine, and in practice, I actually like the Witch's Hut Blessings and Curses, but playing her is literally a chore. You can comment skill issue all you want, but when a faction spawns in an area with unsuitable climate preferences and spends the entire game taking attrition in her own lands, something is wrong. The constant wars, location, the fact you have to spend 1500 essence to unlock a chance to beat your campaign when the most you can spend in the 5-turn period is about 100, it's all a lot of work for a faction I personally don't think is all that fun to play. However, her units are pretty great, can't deny that. Akshinas are overpowered as shit, and the beasties are pretty cool too. We should have Haglords, but we don't, and Mama herself, pretty cool. Makes me even sadder that we don't have generic Haglords, which we should. But for the campaign, she's just poorly designed. I mean, you can't recruit the entire roster until you either own or are in an alliance with one of the major Kislev cities, and in Immortal Empires, she starts in Nagaroth. Did anyone think that through? Best case scenario, you make first contact with Kislev in like 25 turns. How long is it going to take you to get an alliance? I played Realms of Ruin for like 50 turns over on the campaign channel, and I didn't have an alliance. I was still using the basic units that she has access to, which is like a selection of 8 units. That's not gameplay. Limiting something with like a super convoluted way to unlimit it, that's not fun gameplay. At least make it so that she can have a trade agreement. Then she can like, oh yeah, I will trade you these lizard eggs that I found up in the Chaos Waste. They're super corrupted. For some units. Why does it have to be an alliance? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. No one, I sincerely believe that no one at CA actually played more than like 5 turns of Mother Ostankya and thought, yeah, this seems fine, because at 5 turns, any campaign seems fine, but when you get beyond that, it's just a joke. There is a distinct reason that her campaign was left out of the first embargo, and they can tell you it's because they want to showcase her at some convention, all that they want. But the real reason is, she sucks, they know it, I know it, and now that I can tell you, haha, you know it. So to summarize, Tzeentch, rad all round. Cathay, super duper mid. Kislev, dog shit, but cool units. So I think that covers the content, and now my favorite part. Let's get into the corporate greed. Sorry, I meant the price. What's the difference? So yeah, £20 is too expensive for basically any DLC that isn't a complete overhaul of the gameplay. Of course, £20 is the price that the Chaos Dwarves was, and they brought an entire new faction, they brought a new law of magic, they had their unique faction mechanics, they had better trade caravans than Cathay, they had all these new things, and still, I thought that was too expensive, especially when they took away one legendary lord from previous lord packs, and it was £20. And then I was really worried in the build-up to this DLC, because I was thinking, well, 3 lords for the Chaos Dwarves, that was £20, and now these other lord packs are also 3 lords, are they also going to be £20? And, I was right. I don't mean to blow my own trumpet here, but yeah, I was right. Didn't have any insider trading knowledge about this one. I'm just extremely pessimistic about business practices, and what do you know? Lines up exactly. If I think the worst case scenario is going to happen because the company's going to be a bunch of greedy fuckers, guess what? The company's going to be a bunch of greedy fuckers. When I wrote this, I put Steam reviews for the Chaos Dwarves, so mixed, with recent being mostly negative, with most of the negatives being about the massive price tag for this current DLC. Warhammer 3 is currently sitting at, recently, let me just pull it up exactly on my second screen so I can get this accurate for you. You know, if you want to track the analytics, see exactly when I was doing this. 27 of the nearly 2,500 years reviews in the last 30 days are positive. Sorry, 27%. I cannot wait to see what the Steam review page for this, well, hopefully, the Steam review page for this DLC has nothing because no one buys it, but obviously, that's not going to happen. People will buy it and then complain about it because that's what gamers do. I obviously got it for free. I'm going to leave a negative review because this is a negative review. So it's fair enough. And that isn't me review bombing. That's me looking at all this DLC. I've just been through all the content. I don't think it's worth it. If, and this is the biggest if in the entire galaxy, every single one of the lords in this DLC was the same quality and the same uniqueness as the Changeling, I won't be saying for £20 it's worth it. I'd probably be saying for the discounted like £17 or whatever it is at the moment, I'd be like, you know, if you can get it on like a deep sale on that, it's probably worth it. At this point, even if it's on a deep sale, do not buy it because what they've done, right, so the price is £20 now. If it goes in a deep 50% sale, you know what it's still more expensive than? Previous DLCs at full price. Lord packs were £8. And, oh, this is my favorite part. So Lord packs were £8. You got 2 lords, yeah? And then you got 1 lord free LC that everyone in the community got. So £8 for 2 lords, basically paying for the 3 lords, but even if you didn't want to pay for the extra 2 lords, you got that other one for free. Sometimes you're missing features like Dryker, you wouldn't have all the units, but it was a free lord. That free lord has now been added to the paid content, and the price has almost tripled. And in return, we get legendary hero, CA's favorite new invention. We get some fucker for Tzeentch, and fair enough, he's pretty powerful, I won't deny that, but that's it. That is not the equivalent of a faction. It's disgusting. I'm sure you can tell how fucking fired up I am. I'm like 2 points into my script here because I just keep going on tangents because of how disgusted I am with the business practices. So best case scenario, this DLC has one Lord I actually say I really enjoy, one Lord I don't really care about, and one I actively dislike. So, do you want to pay £20 for a single Lord with a handful of units? And don't say yes, even ironically, because that'll give them ideas. And this price has literally nothing to do with production costs. They're not hiring a bunch of people, not paying them great wages, and they are not, well, the people are slaving away on the game. But it's the same people that it's always been, for the same dogshit wages that it's always been, maybe gone up like 2% to meet the inflation minimum requirements that businesses have to keep up with. Almost certainly it's the same people that have been overworked the entire time, been there the whole time, forced them to add more content into this already broken game, not giving them enough time or resources, leading to more things being broken, and the only place where any of this money goes is some prick in a suit's bank account. Some prick who has nothing to do with production, doesn't even touch the product, just like, yes, I want more monies, shareholders want more monies, Sonic the fucking Hedgehog wants more monies, and that's how it is. So do not send any hate to CA staff that are front-facing. The people that make these decisions are so fucking untouchable that you will never find them, and even if you did, they don't give a shit, because they're fucking psychopaths. So do not ever think that by buying this DLC, you are supporting the hard-working people who are actually, working on the DLC and contributing something. You're not. You're just paying for some rich prick to get another yacht. Honestly, if this DLC flopped and they canned Warhammer 3, like they're threatening us to, the devs would be better off because they would be forced to get another job, probably work for a better company like Frontier, Paradox, literally any other fucking gaming company out there with the exception of like EA, probably get a pay raise, better working conditions. I just don't understand how it can be much worse. And now kind of like looping around the point of, do I think that Warhammer 3 is going to get shelved? Again, this was written before they threatened to do it. God, I'm such a fucking prophet, aren't I? So what do you think is likely to happen if this DLC doesn't sell well? 1, they reduce the price of future DLCs moving forward, own up to their mistake. 2, they increase the price of future DLCs to make up for any lost cash that they got with this one. Or 3, they just halt all development of Warhammer 3 because it's clearly no longer profitable. If you think that 1 is going to happen, living in a fantasy land, my friend, 2 and 3 are the only fucking options. There is no world where any company, let alone one as big as CA, owned by Sega, is going to admit wrongdoing. All that's going to happen is all the money that comes from this DLC, if they do decide to can Warhammer 3, they're going to be like, right, then all the money that made just goes into Sonic fucking hedge fund's back pocket. As I said, I wrote this review before CA put out their statements regarding the price, and I just want to applaud them for being so brave as to literally threaten their fan base that if we don't bow down and offer up our wallets to this DLC, those years of Warhammer 3 content that were promised to us aren't looking so certain. Fuck. And I cannot stress this enough. You, CA. Fuck you. And an extra fuck you for releasing that statement minutes before they knew that all of us content creators, 3 PM on the 17th, I'm allowed to say that because it's already been, bitches, 3 PM on the 17th. That's when all our content went out. Do you ever notice that all the content creators launched at the same time? It's because we have an embargo that we have to release. Oh, we're not allowed to release before. And they released their statement 5 minutes before that embargo. What a coincidence that is. So all that happened is, everyone read that statement, got incredibly pissed off, and either didn't bother watching any of our content because they're so pissed off, or were incredibly angry about it and left a lot of angry comments, which, that's fair enough. I didn't really get that many of them, but I know that my friends like Great Book of Grudges, he has seen his community set on fire. I think they've worked on Chaos so long that they're starting to become a bit corrupted. Like, what level of troglodyte do you have to be to think that threatening your fucking core audience with killing your fucking cash cow is a good fucking idea, you fucking fox? Right, so let's put it this way. Who pays for the DLC? Who pays for all the content? The audience. So, that money is used by the company to, pay all the shareholders first, and then any scraps get passed down to pay for their costs or whatever, business things. So, if I pay you some money for something that you make, I technically, in a way, employ you. It's like, the viewers of these videos technically employ me because you are paying me with your time, which, ad rev and all that bullshit, but I digress. So the fans, in a way, employ CA. And CA have just told their employer, you need to give me more money or I'm not going to do any more work. I don't know about you, but I think anyone that's had a job, if you went to your boss and said, I'm not going to do any more work until you pay me more money. Okay, you're getting fired. It's as simple as that. No boss is going to turn around like, oh, okay, unless you are like the one person in the world that can do your job, which, let's be honest, as much as Total War is a totally unique gameplay experience, there are other strategy games out there that we can just turn to and play instead. Baldur's Gate 3 just came out. I know it's not a strategy game, but it's got a lot of crossover of the audience. Biggest game out right now. We'll just go play that instead. It's fine by me. That's what I'm going to do right now. Anyway, if you want to hear more about my thoughts as well as those of my very best internet friends, Monsters Abound, Nathan from the Great Book of Grudges, and Nerd Rage Fred, then check out the How Long Basically podcast that we made. We recorded it the night of the statement. It's over on Great Book of Grudges channel. I'll link it in one of the corners. I can't remember which one. Anyway, yeah, go check that out. It's definitely worth listening because we were not happy. Now, let me be totally clear. I don't want Warhammer 3 to be shelved. And even if you don't believe me and that I still want to like the game, and just look at my channel, it basically relies on the damn game to keep afloat. And if the game disappeared overnight, I'd be in some bother. But you know what I want even less than Warhammer 3 to be shelved? The game series that I used to love being turned into a money extraction machine where bugs are piled on top of bugs, and the hope that some shiny new thing will just distract you from all the mess and all the shit that they've gone through, and it will persuade you to put out more of your hard-earned money to continue to fund lazy and just bullshit development. Again, not lazy development on the developer side, lazy development on, the actual people in charge of CA. They don't care about the bugs. If they did, they'd allocate time and resources to fixing those bugs before adding new quality content. And don't let them blame inflation and rising costs. Everyone has inflation and rising costs. And you know what? It shouldn't really be a rising cost. Fucking video games. Like the mortgage is about to fucking triple, the energy bills and the gas bills and everything's going crazy. For the majority of your core audience who is, people like me or older who own a house or something and have shit to pay for, their costs are rising. Business costs aren't. People have fucking found your financial records because they are easy and public to find, CA. You have made shitloads of profit. You're worth like £150 million. You have money. It's not rising costs. It's lack of care and rising greed from corporate. This game series means more to me than something I just make videos on to keep my internet job afloat. In the worst time of my life, when I was riddled with depression and anxiety, I used to come home and play the game constantly to distract myself. I've literally stayed up playing this game, playing Warhammer 2, Vortex campaigns, and Mortal Empires, and now Immortal Empires. I've literally stayed up playing like all night because going to bed made me feel like I was going to have a panic attack. I've played the game until I was so exhausted that the only thing I could do was fall asleep the moment I hit the pillow. It means more to me than just some bullshit game. Now, luckily, I'm out of that horrible dark place and we've managed to build a community here on this channel where we're passionate about these game series. I like to think that my personal Warhammer, strategy game Discord and my community, I feel like we're super positive. Like, we rarely have any trouble in the Discord. Yeah, it's quite quiet, but there's always people asking for help and playing together, and it's really, I love that about us, that we're so close and nice to each other. It seems so rare on the internet. And by the way, love every single one of you. I can't thank you enough for the support of these, and again, how positive the majority of you are. Sure, we get like the occasional hate comment here and there. I've had our share of dickheads, but on the whole, thank you. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, one of the best communities that I've seen on the internet. Love you all. Not in a parasocial way, this is personal. As long as I owe you all that, I owe this game series a tremendous amount. It's literally the game series that helped me take my channel from literally like nothing, like maybe 100 subscribers, to where it is today. The majority of that has been from the Total War Warhammer series. But does all that mean that I'm just going to recommend every single thing that CA puts out because I owe them that? No, I don't owe them that. I made the content because the game was good. That's what I owed. This company that CA is right now, I don't owe them shit because it's not the same company that CA was when I was making all that content. Being a fan of something often means that you are one of the biggest critics. You see this a lot with like Star Wars and Marvel movies. Like a new film will come out, it'll be just fine, but people are passionate fans about that. They want it to be incredible, and if it isn't and it doesn't live up to their expectations, they are incredibly harsh in criticizing it. And this right here, this game series that I loved for so long, that I was a massive fan of for so long, it's not living up to the expectations of me and the rest of the community. And if I just lay down and say, oh yeah, well this DLC is fine and the price increases, whatever, then I'm not doing all that I can as someone that cares about this game and its community. I just can't do that. And I'm not gonna lie to you. Today, I only really play Total War for videos these days, but that is what happens when you turn something from a hobby into a job. But despite that, I still want the best and care deeply about it because I know there are many people like me for who it's more than just some bullshit game, and it's something that makes you happy when you're feeling down, something to distract you when you need a distraction. So, where do we go from here? I can spend hours shitting on business decisions, but I'm not doing much to help unless I offer up a solution. So, 3 steps. First, the pricing is unacceptable, especially for this level of content. As I said, I doubt it'll ever be lowered, so the other option is to increase the quality and quantity of content. £20 for 4 lords with high quality mechanics and units is a bit of a better deal. Yes, it's still a lot to spend on a single DLC pack, but the quantity and the quality will be there, so £5 per lord, that's getting sort of closer to what the old DLC packs used to have, which was about £4 per lot. That is an increase that most people will accept, but you know, tripling, that's just not on. Like I said, hell, if all 3 lords in this DLC pack were of the same quality as the Changeling, it'd still be an expensive DLC, but I'd be less harsh on it being so ridiculously overpriced. I'd be like, yeah, just get it on like a 25% sale. That'll be fine. But as stands, maybe it's hardly worth the 50% sale. The other option is, of course, to reduce the content per pack and reduce the price to save a little bit of face. Say if you did a 2-lord pack for £10, you know, you're still getting a £2 increase over the old DLC packs, but it's still a bit more reasonable. As I said, that £5 per lord and, you know, per lord and, you know what I mean, per faction involved in the Lord pack with their units, that's still expensive, but it's a little bit more reasonable. As for what they can do for this DLC, some free content would go a long way. Honestly, not even free content. We don't need a free DLC Lord or free DLC Hero or whatever. Well, just fix the game. And this brings me to my second point. The game is fucked up. It's been buggy since launch, and it's just honestly made things even worse. The IE beta did nothing. We gave them loads of feedback. They ignored most of it, and every new patch brings drastic bugs that break the game and sometimes entire factions. Like the Nakai Croc score thing has been broken since 3.1. The Damsels have been broken since 3.1. When they were added, if you add something and it's already broken, wow, QA. And the worst part about it is that it won't be patched for like 4 months because we insist on only releasing patches with the DLC, and then immediately after they release like the 0.1 fix patch, which doesn't really fix anything, mostly just breaks stuff. So, increase patch frequency, monthly to start off with, addressing the biggest bugs first and slowly chip away at the mountain of issues that players are facing. Yes, I know it'll take time, and I don't expect it to happen overnight, but doing this will show that you are listening and trying to do the most important thing. Try to fix things. Honestly, you need a whole QA team for the base game and the new DLCs. I'm not being funny, but the amount of bugs in the DLC and every early access thing that we get access to, we pass on our feedback and say, oh yeah, this thing isn't working, this thing's bugged, and then it makes it out of that DLC to launch, so it's gone through their internal QA if it exists, made it to us, we've brought it up, told them, and it still gets out to the public. What? To get a team on it that by the time it's in early access, the only things that content creators have to pick up on is just nitpicks like spelling mistakes and, you know, super duper occasional like end game. There's like this bug that like one person will have found because of the specific way that they've played. That's fine. We don't expect the game to be perfectly polished, but it has to be better than this. Topical, but I'm pretty sure Baldur's Gate players reported that translation voice actors were not in the credits, and Larian requested a list so that they could get a hotfix out ASAP. In the credits, like a 100+ hour game. Imagine that. They've also had like 4 patches in the weeks since it's launched, and it's just a huge list of bug fixes. If you go on the Steam page, it's just like line after line of massive bug fixes. They've probably covered and patched more bugs in their like launch weeks than CA has in the last year. I mean, they're shaming the entire industry right now, but you know, that's been covered to death at this point, so let's just move on. Now, I know that the mountain of bugs is massive, but the only way to work through it is to work through it. Also, look to modders for support. There are countless mods out there of community fixes for different specific things. I know there's one for Nakai's. There's bug fixes for basically everything. Talk to the modders, ask how they did it, implement their work, and then compensate them fairly. Just say, oh, how many hours did it work, and pay them like, I don't know, like £15 an hour for how long it took them to work on it. And it's not going to kill you. It's just a little bit of splash of cash here and there, you know, £100 here, £100 there to fix these bugs. Basically already done the work for you. We know that you have the money, CA. We can see your financial records. Like I said, in a game this large, bugs are bound to happen. But refusing to address them is not the way to make it better. Make it easy for players to report bugs. Like in some early access games, if you press a pause menu, there's like a little bug icon, you click that and it says, oh, what are you experiencing? It takes a screenshot of your game, you type up, oh, this thing is flashing and it's not working correctly. And then you click it, and it sends it off to QA. It's done its job for you. They found the bug. You just then look at it and go, oh, bug there, fix it. It's basic shit, but they're just not doing it. Now, the last point I wrote here is to stop pretending that you can't hear us. But wow, was I wrong? I mean, I'm right in the sense that, you know, you have to acknowledge your community and that you are listening to our complaints, that you have heard us, but the response in corporate justification and veiled threats to kill your game, it maybe sounds as preferable CA. Honestly, it sounded like a bit from The Simpsons, but unironically, a statement about the statement is needed at this point. Just take responsibility, leave the discount Steam price as the default price for like 6 months and then drop the price after that, or, you know, doing the other suggestions that I've suggested, and then fix this shit going forwards. I have faith that somewhere inside CA is the company that I used to have absolute faith in. I remember in the build up to, you know, Warhammer 3 coming out, every single Warhammer 2 DLC, I was fucking hyped because I was like, wow, new features in a new Total War DLC by CA, you know it's going to be good. They were on a streak where they just made banger after banger after banger, and since Warhammer 3's come out, they've just been on a streak of dog shit after dog shit after dog shit. Now, granted, some of the content has been good. I can't deny that. The last DLC, you know, the Chaos Dwarves, they were good, overpriced. Champions of Chaos were pretty good. More reasonably priced, still a little bit expensive, but still. It's mainly just the bugs and lack of care. And also, you know, we had like a year without content, so that was not cool. Like, where is the CA? Where I was just buzzing for every update. Where is the CA that years after the game came out, they dropped the hottest patch, the Speed Potion patch, which sorted out turn timers and brought the peak players that the game has ever seen years after release. Where is that CA? Because this isn't the one I'm looking at right now. It's a completely different company. So when you guys find that company within yourselves, let me know, and I'll look forward to what they come up with next. But for now, I'm going to close out with a little bit of positivity because I've ranted and raved for, oh my god, like 33 minutes now. This better get caught up. So instead of spending £20 on this DLC, I'm going to give you some suggestions of what you could spend your hard-earned money on instead. First of all, get the obvious one out of the way. Save it up 2.5 times, get Baldur's Gate 3. It's phenomenal. You don't need me to tell you that. Get a couple of months of Game Pass and try a huge library of all kinds of games for you to try out on basically any device that can open a browser. Play Dave the Diver and run your own sushi restaurant / scuba diving fishing business. Play Dredge on sale and do some boat fishing whilst navigating Lovecraftian mystery. Snap your mouse in half playing Blasphemous in a Souls-like Metroidvania with a rad setting. Or just go on Steam and have a look at any number of the plenty of games out there that are far better than this DLC and much more worth the price. Oh, complete side note by the way, I've made a Steam curator page where I'm going to review basically everything that I play, both on the channel and off it. So if you want super short reviews from this guy, then check it out in the description. So, in conclusion, don't buy this DLC if you want CA to have half a chance of waking up and doing better, like we know they have, and they can do again. I have this much faith in you guys. Don't make me look like an idiot. You're going to make me look like an idiot. And of course, don't send any hate to CA staff, the community managers, anyone that you can speak to at CA, unless you somehow have, like, you've done some corporate climbing and you're talking to, you know, the CEOs and Sonic the Hedgehog himself. Do not send any hate to CA because it won't do anything. Like, the community managers, they have no sway over this thing. They can pass your feedback on, but just make sure it's in, you know, a concise thing other than like, you deserve to die because you work at CA and they release this DLC. Don't say that. It's not right. As I said, these decisions are made by pricks in suits all the way up in Sega Tower. But if you hit them where it hurts, and that is their wallet, they'll have to say something. If we're really, really lucky, write all of our letters to Santa, get them there on time, maybe, just maybe, they'll do something better. Anyway, let me know what you think of this DLC in the comments below. Within this video, I'd actually written to recommend that you check out my other content for this DLC. But honestly, like, subscribe, and if you want content about some DLC that's actually worth the money, then check out my tier list for Stellaris DLC. There's a lot of it, and some of it is not amazing, but there's some gold out there. Much cheaper than this DLC. Not like that's a challenge.